Hi, this is Dr. Rankin, and here is a short overview of the problem statement in the applied dissertation process here at CityU. It's important to understand that within the world of the doctoral field, there are theoretical dissertations and then there are applied dissertations. Theoretical dissertations seek to generate new knowledge to advance the field. That knowledge can be esoterical, it can be important to the field, and it could even solve a problem. However, that's not the goal of the research. Whereas with an applied dissertation, the goal of the research is to generate new knowledge in the pursuit of a solution to a problem in your field. You may notice that some dissertations, specifically PhD dissertations, don't even have problem statements. They go directly into their research questions from their introduction. Other programs like the doctoral program in business or doctoral program in leadership, the EDD, the DBA, those programs will typically focus completely on the problem statement as being the most important part of the dissertation, and that's what we are focused on. The problem statement needs to be a clear problem in your field, whether that's organizational leadership, educational leadership, or whether that's business administration. There needs to be a clear problem that you're finding in the field. And it's important to understand that the problem statement is not your opinion. It's not a problem you think exists. It's not a problem that you've seen once or twice but doesn't happen regularly. It should be having a negative effect in your field for more people than just yourself. And the resolution of the problem should be valuable to some area of your field. This means that it needs to be important to more than just you or your specific school or your specific organization. It needs to be something that is going to help the entire field. It needs to be clear and it needs to be succinct. The problem statement needs to be limited in scope. You can't solve problems for the whole world. We know that there are some huge problems out there right now. However, we can't solve those kind of problems. What we can instead do is look at a part of that or something that might be related to that that is something smaller that you can look at and actually design a project that could help to solve that problem. And you may not solve the problem completely, but you can lead to solving the problem by putting another brick in the wall, helping to go a little bit further. But it is important to not be too limited in scope. You don't want to just look at employees from three companies if you're doing some kind of overall thing in your field. 5 students at one school. This is not necessarily going to show any kind of real important information that your field can use. It's too limited. So the idea here is that what you want to research is something that is large enough to be considered a dissertation-worthy research project. Once you become a doctor, you could study just 4 students if you wanted to do a small study. You could study your practice. You could study a small aspect of your organization. Those kind of things can be done once you have a doctoral degree and could add to your organization, add to your field. But the important thing for a dissertation is that the problem is of a large enough scope that it's worthy of a dissertation project, which is basically what is getting you your doctoral degree. The problem needs to be important, and it needs to be something that hasn't been addressed before, so new information, or you're going to find out, you're going to look at it in a different way to add new information to something that's already been done. So somebody may have already studied organizations who are going bankrupt in the new millennia, but you're going to add information by specifically looking at organizations that went bankrupt because of COVID in the new millennia. So you're adding a piece of new information that wasn't there before. It has to be, you have to be able to substantiate in the literature that this problem exists for more than just you. So somebody should have been talking about this problem or something related to this problem, so that you can demonstrate in a research-focused way that the problem exists and is important in your field, whether or not it has been ever looked at before, at least people recognize that it's a problem. It has to be described in the level of detail that makes it meaningful. It cannot be your opinion or anything that appears like your opinion. It needs to be dissertation worthy and not a soapbox issue, meaning that a lot of people will go in and say, my boss is a terrible leader, and because of that, employees are quitting. So I want to study terrible leaders to figure out how to fix my boss. I want to prove to him that he's wrong. And that's just, you're going in with a soapbox issue. You're going in with an issue that you're very passionate about. However, you can't be objective about that issue, and it becomes so personal that you will end up not being able to take feedback or listen to other people, like your committee members, because you're so set to prove this point that you've found. And that's another important point. If you know the solution to the problem, then you're already biased to the problem. So you always have to realize that you have to come at this with an open mind, research mind, to make an inquiry and see what you can find, not already know what the answer is and just going to prove it. The problem statement is the foundation of your study. It needs to be significant. It needs to be important. Your chair is going to work with you on this. During the residencies, we're going to be doing workshops also to help you develop problems, purpose, topics, all of those things we're going to be doing workshops on. So by the time you get to your dissertation, you're going to be well ahead of everyone else, well, in other schools. Problem statement at CityU is divided into two parts, the general problem and the specific problem. The general problem represents a larger problem in the field. This is where the literature is going to come in. It's going to show that there is a problem in the field related to this problem that you want to actually study. It's going to give background to the problem that you want to study in whatever specific area that you want to study it in. So you may find literature that says that this problem exists in school systems all over the country, but you're going to study specifically an example of that existing in your school system. So the general problem statement needs to show from the literature the problem or the larger issues that are happening. And then the specific localized problem is what you're going to be actually looking at in your study. What's the specific problem? How do you know it's a problem? And you don't want to just say, I know it's a problem because I see it, that it's a problem. How is it showing that it's a problem? If you have sources, you want to cite those. Scope, who will you be researching? You can't go to the whole world, so how are you going to get to this group? Who's affected by the problem? Who benefits if it's solved? And then what connection does it have to business administration or leadership? Those are the kind of ideas you want to be able to put together. How does it have a leadership connection? How can leadership help with this problem? Or in business, how can you make this business system, this business idea stronger or better to help businesses or help organizations strengthen themselves and do better related to the problem that you're studying? So this is going to be very specific, and it's going to basically define the problem for you. Problem statements do evolve, so you're going to make revisions, and then you're going to see how it works, and then you make revisions again. You will work with your problem statement over and over and over again until it gets right. And that is going to be something that's going to evolve over time. So don't be frustrated when people come and ask you questions to help you think more about the problem, because that's part of the process. Having a strong problem is the foundation of your entire dissertation, and having a good, strong problem will make the dissertation go by much faster and easier. So once you come up with a problem statement, you need to address the following thing: the scope, the background, the deficiencies in literature, who will be impacted, and how it's specific to business leader. This is what we went over before. Challenges with problem statements is that sometimes a problem statement isn't a problem, it's a question, or it's not substantiated in the literature. That leads into it being mostly a student's opinion. And the idea here is that you have a question. You want to know how you can make your particular business do better. Say you're a small business owner and you're an entrepreneur, and you want to know, how can I make things better for entrepreneurs when it comes to this issue? Because I know it was hard for me. I know the solution to it, so the question is, how can I make things better? How can we make it better? But that's not a problem, that's a question. So that's going to more to the theoretical side. And when it's your opinion, then you may say something like, I know teachers have a hard time with students who are on the autistic spectrum. This is a problem. I've seen it. I know it's a problem. All these teachers have this problem. Well, that may not be true, and probably isn't true. That's too broad in scope. All teachers have a problem with autistic spectrum students. Number one, the spectrum is huge. There's so many different contexts and situations. And do you know that this is a problem? Have other people come up to you? Have you seen it in the literature that shows this is a problem? Or is this just your opinion because this is what you see? That's where you have to really be able to step back and look at this from a research lens. And then there's some times when it's going to be too hard to gather the data. It would take way too long. You've got a 7-year limit in this program. You don't want to spend 5 years trying to gather data. Specifically, think about things. If a problem only happens once a year at a certain small window of time, that might be something that is very hard to examine because you'll have to wait from whenever you get approved to do your proposal to go ahead and start gathering data. You're going to have to wait till that point in time happens again. Those kind of things can really add to the time it's going to take you to get your research done. And again, you want to limit your scope. There are some bad problems in the world. We're seeing those happening. You can't solve those larger problems. You can't end racism, or you can't end classism. You can't fight colonialism all by yourself. You've got to think about how the problem is affecting the people it's affecting, and how can you help to solve that problem. Not for the whole world, but the problem that you are specifically looking at. Now, we haven't given any examples in this brief video, but if you want to find examples of problem statements, the best thing to do is go to the ProQuest Dissertations and Theses database. If you go to the library page and you click on Databases at the very top under the search bar, and then click on the button for dissertations, you will see the only option you have is the ProQuest Dissertation and Theses. When you click on it, you'll see a search like this. You want to go down to do an advanced search, and then you want to go down to university or institution, and you want to find City University of Seattle. That will be the all the dissertations that have come out of City University. You can look through those. The newer ones, the most recent ones, are the best ones to look at for examples of problem statements, because we've really gotten it down to an art and science now. And that's one of the things you want to really look at, is how are other students saying the general problem? How are they saying the specific problem? What does that look like? Now, you may have questions after watching this video. We are going to be answering some of these in the residency, but if something is really weighing on your mind, just please email your instructors in the residency shell, and we can help you to answer those questions. Thank you for listening, and have a great rest of your day.